Hi, welcome to AI Uncovered. I'm your host, Tim Martin, and also the leader of product at Yseop, a company creating AI software. In this podcast, I'm going to search to learn everything about AI, the market, the tech, and some real-world applications. I'll be interviewing some experts and folks executing on AI and extracting critical insights about this technology for our listeners. So let's get started on a path of deeper learning about AI. My guest today is Emmanuel Walckenaer, the CEO of Yseop, a natural language processing company. Emmanuel has over 25 years of experience in high tech. He was previously the general manager and senior vice president of Sierra Wireless's Cloud and Connectivity Services unit, where he led strategic acquisitions. Before that, he was the senior vice president at Gemalto, where he was responsible for the development of global telecom business services. Emmanuel, you're a strong advocate for AI and pharma. You've taken that position before. How would you summarize 2024 in terms of AI's real-world impact in pharma? And did you see any pivotal breakthroughs this year?
I think, pivotal moments, clearly 2 years ago with ChatGPT. Last year, improvements of LLMs, which are really the technology foundations. And DeepSeek, boom, emerged. I think this is very interesting, and by the way, validates our strategy very, very clearly. And people, when you talk about AI, always think about these technology, foundational LLMs, large language models, and so on. We are on the application layer, I would say one step above, using these LLM to solve a problem. For in our case, to automate document for this highly regulated industry, which is pharma. To answer your question, I think the pivotal moment is more and more we will see LLM becoming commodities. And sorry for the guys, who have the more than talented guys who are inventing this technology. But this is going to be a commodity. You can see now guys with a fraction of what it costs to ChatGPT and Meta and the others who can actually have a highly sophisticated model. Now, on the application side, and we are working on the B2B, business to business with application, involving change management and so on, things a little bit slower. But I really see more and more of these applications in production, maybe not fully rolled out yet in the pharma industry, but it's really a gradual and steady and consistent deployment.
So you think pharma's already feeling the real world impact of what you're bringing and other companies are bringing to the market now?
I think so. I think this is really starting to become a reality. I think this is going to grow. I don't know if we crossed the chasm completely, but this is clearly now, the question is not if this is going to be deployed, but when this is going to be deployed, how fast this is going to be deployed. So for me, it's, I don't know if it's a turning point, but there's clearly an acceleration.
Yeah, and your comment about DeepSeek's interesting, right? Because it knocked some value out of the stock market in the US. People are saying $1 trillion of value. You've got a few folks shaken up about this, but there's already some cracks in what they've done in terms of what they said the resources were and what they actually did. So I think we're going to find out that there was a much bigger effort to develop that model than it was.
I'm sure, Tim, I'm absolutely sure. But for us who are using, we are LLM agnostic. We're picking the best LLM for the best transformation. So we're really using that as technology components, among many other things. And the fact there is a clear war declared, and to your point, I'm sure it did cost more than $6 billion. I'm sure, they took the best brains that China counts to really focus on this stuff. But this is, this is open source. This is going to shake the industry, and I've been thinking that LLM costs are going down. What matters is what do you do with that? They are technology bricks, so you can use that as chatbot, fine. But we are an B2B solution, B2B workflow automation company, and this is a completely different story.
Yeah, I totally agree. It makes a lot of sense. So my next question was going to be about the hype cycle around AI, but it seems like, just this discussion about DeepSeek, there's still lots of hype, still lots of things going on. But I think what you're getting at now is there is some meaningful adoption, right? Generative AI is adding some value already. And I wonder, do you see in the short term here, a greater tipping point for using these models in pharma? Did you see anything else on the horizon that's really going to accelerate the use of these technologies?
I mean, they are getting better. But I think, we're working with AWS and with a highly secured environment. I think the overall ecosystem is getting more mature. The LLM, the problem is, if you take just an LLM, they have some hallucination, there are some emissions, so sometimes they get a bit crazy. So you have to, you have to use them appropriately. Then there is a security issue. You can't send clinical data in a prompt in the open world. I mean, this would be crazy. I would be fired immediately, or sued, or crucified by my customers. So but I think the whole ecosystem. Again, we're working with AWS. They have a very now. With Bedrock, with all of their infrastructure. We've got something very stable, very secure, where we can really build, I would say, an enterprise platform targeting pharma market, which is super conservative, and rightly so, by the way. So I'm not, in my word, to have the pharma company being conservative is a good thing. Thanks God, these guys, pay attention to how they work and how they validate their drug and how they put that into the market. But it puts a tremendous pressure. But I would say now we have the tools to answer this type of question. And I think the market is really gaining maturity in that front.
Sure. And let's talk about the market for a minute. I know you've done a lot of research into the market here for B2B and pharma. How big is this opportunity for medical writing, clinical trial?
Well, maybe I can give you a few points. In the world, there are 10,000 medical writers. So it's a significant community, and these guys are experts. They are PhDs, they are highly educated persons. And one of the problem is that you can train a medical writer in 6 months. Now there are more and more molecules entering the market, so there's really a shortage of people. So the overall medical writing market is about close to $10 billion. And we believe that our addressable market today is 1.5 billion and would be 3 billion in 4 years. So it's a niche application. We're automating, helping the medical writers to write much more quickly all these documents critical for new drug validation and acceptance by the FDA and the EMA and so on. But that's really billions of dollars, and it's a niche application. And there are many other applications leveraging AI, trying to leverage AI.
Yeah. So even a niche application is a couple $1 billion market or something. It's very interesting. So, um, can you share maybe a relevant example of some success story that can be meaningful for the listeners?
Absolutely. Well, for me, when you are talking about application in the B2B space, it's not about technology. It's all about how our customers will leverage this technology to change their process and work in a much faster way. So when it's really both, change management, we automate the workflow. When you think about, okay, these guys, AI, the solution can actually generate a 300-page document in a few seconds, you can change completely the way you think about it. All right, let's generate this document, or let's do all the configuration and let's do exactly what we want beforehand, before all the data are available, so that, so they really move downstream so that they can accelerate downstream when the database is locked and the clock is ticking. So yeah, some customers already announced that they gain 2 weeks, and they are targeting to gain an additional 5 weeks in this overall process, meaning it's a lot of 5 weeks, even 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 10 weeks. It's a lot, and we achieved that today. Another way to look at that is the efficiency. Another customers, I think, made it public is Lilly. I mean, they are producing these narratives. Took them to write manually 4 hours for each narrative, where we describe, in a clinical trial, what happened to anybody who has got severe adverse events. So you have to describe. That's mandatory. And used to take them 4 hours to do that manually. With Yseop, and again, changing the way they are working, take them a few seconds. And for some clinical trials, they have hundreds of thousands to write. So that's pretty significant savings.
Certainly is. I wonder, you shared a couple of examples with us here. If you take a look at today's kind of focus on automating documents, what would be the next step after that? How do you add more and more value to customers once some of these things are achieved in clinical, for example?
I think there is a few things. One, it's actually a chain of document in clinical. You do the CSR for a study, you do different CSR, then you do summaries, specialized summaries, by the way, on efficacy, on the safety, on demography, and so on. And then you do the summary of the summary. So, it's in a way, a cascade of documents. So automating the full chain is certainly something we're looking at. So you automate the individual reports if you want, and then you can, with one click, you automate, boom, the full, all the other documents, which is, of course, incredibly powerful. The other thing in pharma, clinical is very important, because clinical, when you're in phase 3, this is what, this is what, there's big hope for the whole company. Big pharma is introducing 1 to 3 really high value blockbuster, or try to introduce high value blockbusters. One day gain is $3 to $10 million. So if you can gain 2 weeks, 3 weeks, of course, this has massive value. And hundreds of thousands of people are waiting for these drugs. So, going faster on the market has massive impact. Now, beyond that, you have in preclinical, you have in CMC. CMC is all about, the quality, the manufacturing. Is your process stabilized, and so on. You have got in pharmacovigilance. You don't want to realize 5 years after you put your drug on the market that there is a problem. So you have really to monitor that. And the FDA, the EMA, and so on are really asking for a lot of evidence, of documents that have to be produced in manufacturing, in pharmacovigilance, even in preclinical when you are doing the test on mice and animals. So there are 50, 100 different types of documents. So the landscape is massive for us.
And I imagine, you mentioned this earlier with respect to generative AI, and I know Yseop uses both symbolic and generative AI techniques in its product, but trust, maybe some control, these things are important for medical writers today, right? If they can't trust the output, if it's not high quality, it's just really not that useful in a regulatory environment. So how do you kind of balance this when you roll out a product?
It's I think this is a very crucial part. Usually, when you sell this type of product to the to the big boss, they're super happy. Oh, great! This is going to streamline my process. I'll get my drug in the market much faster. Fantastic. And then the medical writers, as I say, the medical writers are highly educated people. They are really scientists, and usually there is a negative reaction first. Very typical. AI scares people. I mean, and they may not say it openly and loudly, but back in their mind, okay, are they going to introduce this type of product because they want to fire me? Is the machine going to replace me? And I think the process, change management, but the adoption process is absolutely key. So we use medical writers, we use experts to explain, guys, what you are doing today. A lot of what you're doing today is not super interesting. The scientific value you are adding to these documents is what matters. And our goal is really to automate all these quote unquote low value tasks without any errors, so that you can really focus on the scientific value you can provide. And when they understand that, when they are using with the tool, they see that stylings, the document format, the tables, the data, what is written is actually pretty good. They see that they see Yseop as an assistant, and they can effectively focus on the scientific issue. I mean, and it's more important, so and some documents are even more important than that. So anyway, net this change management is critical, and it is I think we are lucky to have so highly educated customers and end users, because really raise the bar, and we have to be very good. Otherwise, they say, guys, come back in 6 months and we'll look at your stuff.
So I'm interested in, you have a variety of tier one customers, all in the pharma industry. What separates great progress in using these kinds of new products with AI built in from, what separates a company that does really well from a company that just does okay? And what would your advice be to some of these large companies looking at this kind of technology?
Well, I think I'm French. So French usually love technology and fell in love in technology and technology alone. My biggest advice would be, the technology works. Don't spend too much time, even though there will be hundreds of consultants to explain you that the prompts, the beauty and the nobility of prompting and so on. Okay, sure, fine. But this is not what matters. What matters is really how can you improve the process with this type of supercharged AI application. Are you ready to have the discipline to say, okay, I'm going to change my process, but I'm going to benefit from this tool so that I can have a more disciplined approach across the board. And this is what is difficult. If they are ready to do that, they will have exceptional results. If they want to automate a mess, they will get a quick mess. But if you see what I mean? If they are ready to clean their data, we have Vanessa, one of our team member, wrote a white paper with Novo Nordisk and Lilly on how important is data preparation and change management, and this is highly interested thought from different companies and different perspective, but this is what matters.
So what I'm hearing you say is that yes, this technology, these new software applications using AI can be really beneficial, but you can't just do that in a vacuum. You actually have to think about your own processes and potentially modify them to make this whole end-to-end thing work well.
Yeah. And this, you can do that step by step. You can't, you should not wait, because understanding the technology, understanding what it brings, will immediately put a lot of questions on the table, but you may solve them progressively. And this is what is super interesting. We have a CAB, a customer advisory board. We have got representatives from different companies. It's great. Some are super advanced, some are a little bit less advanced, but all are sharing, okay, what works best and so on. Introducing AI application is very new. And I think sharing best practices, sharing, good ideas and so on is certainly a recipe of success.
And as you take a look at the future, so let's say 2025, maybe the short-term future, 2025, 2026, what are some predictions that you might have, or what do you see happening that either creates deeper adoption of these kinds of technologies or any kind of change that could be beneficial?
As I say, I think the market is maturing quite quickly. So I think the debate is not going to be so much on the okay, should you use Cloud 3.5 or GPT X.X, but more, okay, how do you use that? What do I have to change? And I see that on the testimonial of our customers and the way they share, information with others, even at DIA, at Scope, and so on. They're way more open, and I think this is going to, I would say, broaden the market much quickly. We have got, initially only tier one customers were, I would say, quote unquote, able to, to have this type of pretty large program, automation program and so on. We see an incredible number of tier two customers, the top 26 to 100, top 100, smaller companies having one drug every year, one drug every 2 years on the market, super invested and super interesting. So you can see super rapidly the market is expanding now. And my if you need a prediction, I would say, all right, let's by the end of 2026, I think 50%, 50, of the top 100 companies will have deployed and will be in production with this type of technology in 2 years.
Great, great prediction. Solid. Can't wait to see that happen. Lastly, any sneak peeks on what Yseop's up to? Anything you want to share?
Ooh, that's I have to talk to my product guy. One thing we're aiming, and we're very, very close, and again, it's a gradual process, is a one-click document generation. And very soon it will be the one-click document generation and cascading. And this is going to happen in 2025 for sure. And it's a lot of automating the automation, a lot of work, behind the scene to make that happen so that it's very simple for the end user. I drag and drop my tables, I drag and drop my input, documents, click, boom, generate my document. And I can add my scientific value on top of it.
Yeah, so the idea is instead of automating just parts of workflows, you want to automate the entire workflow.
Entire workflow, absolutely. And you will see, there will be some announcements with Viva and others.
Okay, well, that's a good hook for the end of the interview as well. So, Emmanuel, thanks so much for sharing information with us about the market and what Yseop's up to, and wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, team. Take care.
I wanted to thank Emmanuel for being on the podcast today. Gave us some great insights into the adoption of AI in big pharma, insights into what happened in 2024, and some predictions for 2025.